Okay, so tonight we are going to wrap up our series with the Amidah, with the Shemona Esrei.
That's when you read the Torah.
And as we had mentioned, I believe last week, that we go straight from, on page 96, straight from the blessing Ga'al Yisroel, which is past tense, that God redeemed Israel, and then we go right into the Amidah, right into the Shemona Esrei on page 98. And I mentioned last week from Rabbi Schwab the idea that the greatest gift that God gave to us was Geula, was redemption, the redemption from Egypt. And the greatest gift that we give to Hashem is Tefilah, is prayer, right? And the idea being, as we'll soon see, it's not that God needs to hear, oh, you are great, you are powerful, you are kind, you are gracious. That is not this flattery game. That's not what it's about at all. Rather, what it's about is our forging a connection with Him and recognizing the role that He plays and our dependency on Him. And we understand that we often look at different relationships that we have to try to gain an understanding in our relationship with Hashem. And as a parent to a child, the parent doesn't want to hear flattery from the child. The parent wants to have a relationship with the child, wants to have a meaningful relationship with the child. As Rabbi Schwab had explained, we're going through different stages of entering into the Beit HaMikdash, into the temple, with each stage of davening. And over here, we take 3 steps back, and we take 3 steps forward, and with our feet together, we begin the Shemona Esrei. Why the 3 steps forward? So Rabbi Schwab explains it to mean to let us realize that, right, we've been moving from zone to zone, symbolically, with each stage of our davening, but here we have to physically take 3 steps forward, because this movement is to a whole different level. With this movement, we're going into the Holy of Holies, into the Kodesh Kadashim, and having that intense connection with Hashem. Others explain, so that explains the 3 steps forward. Doesn't explain the 3 steps back and 3 steps forward, just conservation of space. The shul, you have to, you're not going to move every bench forward 3 steps. Every davening will end up going through the front wall, right? But others explain very, very beautifully the idea of 3 steps back and 3 steps forward. The Amidah, which we'll come to shortly, shows us the requests that we are making are there as a way of showing our dependence upon God. Now, and our recognizing that all that we have comes from Hashem. Now, Hashem in this world hides Himself. We've mentioned many times the Hebrew word for world, olam, has the same root, ayin, lamed, mem, as hidden. So we define the world as the place wherein God hides Himself. So Hashem, so to speak, takes 3 steps back. Hashem steps back and is not overtly involved in all that's going on in an apparent manner. It's in a hidden way. So Hashem, so to speak, takes 3 steps back. So we mirror those 3 steps back, saying, Hashem, you take 3 steps back, but we take 3 steps forward. right? And we're saying we won't be fooled again, right? No, right? You're hiding yourself, but we know that it's you. We will not fall into this illusion that all that's going on goes on beyond you. We take 3 steps back as Hashem has hidden himself, and we take 3 steps forward and say, Baruch Atah, blessed are you. We recognize that it is you, and we will not be duped by this elusive illusion that we have here in this world. Now, it's called the Amidah. What does Amidah mean? Stand. So it's called the Amidah, and we must stand for it. Right? If we can't stand, then we would say it's sitting. But this is meant to be said while standing up. It's called the Amidah. What is this emphasis on the standing? Why is its very name Amidah, standing? So the Maharal explains very beautifully. We had back in Bereshit, Rashi brought a beautiful medrash, how during the creation there was this constant balance between the heavenly and the earthly. And we came to the 7th day in the creation of man, so now we were in balance. So now what's going to happen with this creation of man? If he's going to be heavenly, then we're out of balance. If he's going to be earthly, we're out of balance. So he was created with a body from the earth and a soul from the heavens. And that way the balance was maintained. So man is like Yaakov, like Jacob had in his dream. Man traverses from the earth up to the heaven, connecting the two. So he points out that a behemah, all animals, they're all built in a way that they hover over the ground. They are over the ground. Whether it's a bird, whether it's a fish, whether it's an animal, even the ape, right, is hovering over the ground. Why is that? Because they are connected to the earth. They are earthly creatures, earthly creations who have a life here on earth, and then when their life on earth ends, that is the end. There is not an eternal neshama, soul, that is inside of them. A human being is unique, and we, B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of God, we stand straight. And we don't hover over the earth, rather we have our feet on the earth and our head reaching towards the heavens. So it is this unique posture of ours that really illustrates the unique status, role, and responsibility that we have. Therefore, that is what allows us, that's what represents our connection to heaven. So if we're going to be standing before God, if we're going to be approaching God and communing directly to God, as in this Kodesh Kadashim, as in this Holy of Holies manner, whereas until now in davening we've been speaking about Hashem, but now it is a different connection, and that's why there are many halachot. Right? If a person is davening, there's nothing wrong in stepping in front of that person, passing by in front of that person. The person is saying the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah, you should not cross, unless there are chairs, otherwise, but let's say in an open area, one should not go within Dalet Amot, 6 to 8 feet of that person. Why? Because the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is there in front of that person. Right? Right? If I'm talking to someone else walks in the middle, it's very rude. It's disrespectful to both the people who are having that connection. And therefore, it's grossly disrespectful to walk in between the person and the divine presence that is there in front of them. So the Amidah is unique in terms of this connection. And therefore, what is our license? What is our entry ticket that allows us to have this face-to-face confrontation with Hashem? The fact that we are unique beings who are a combination of the earthly, and the heavenly, represented by our standing up. Therefore, that's what we do at this critical point and type of Tefilah. We must stand. So we take our 3 steps back. We take our 3 steps forward, and we stand before Hashem. We begin with the pasuk, Hashem. I can say the whole pasuk. Adonai svatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Right? My Lord, my God, my lips open my lips so my mouth can tell your praises. And the idea of this preface is that, like we said before, we have a spiritual soul, a spiritual part of God. We call that the neshama, the soul. Neshama comes from the word neshima. Neshima is a breath. So to speak, Hashem inhaled and Hashem blew out this neshama into the nostrils of Adam, and he became this nefesh chaya. So it is this part of God that is in us. So therefore, what is separating, or what is the conduit between this part of God and us that's now going to be speaking to Hashem? Our lips, our mouth. That is the conduit. That's almost the barrier, and hopefully the conduit through which our words will come from inside our soul out to Hashem. So we begin, Hashem, svatai tiftach, our lips open up, ufi agit hilatecha, and let my mouth tell your praises. And then again, 3 steps back, 3 steps forward, we're standing there, and then what's after that introductory pasuk verse, what do? Baruch Ata. So as this free-willed being, creature, who has this ability to stand before God, what is the very first thing that we do with that ability to stand before God? We bow before God. We show respect. We acknowledge who it is and what it is that we're standing before. So we have our unique greatness in our Amidah, but we must utilize that will, that free will that we have, to humble ourselves. And therefore this first bracha, we bow both at the beginning of the blessing, Baruch Atah, Hashem now, Baruch Atah, and then we stand straight when we say Hashem's name. The idea of recognizing that it is, the pasuk says, Hashem zokef kevufim, God straightens up those who are bent, but recognizing that this stature that we have is this gift from Hashem. Yes, Tov.
Also, we make ourselves smaller to magnify Hashem.
Okay.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
I think you said once that we stand with our feet.
Yeah. Okay.
Together,
Good.
It's because of the krovim.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
standing of
Yes.
the
Good. Thank you. Right. We take our 3 steps back, our 3 steps forward, then we stand with our feet together. Right. So Rabbi Schwab explains that we are like a korban that is bound up as we offer a sacrifice, as we're offering ourselves before Hashem. But the more classic explanation that's given is that by an angel is said to have 1 foot. Now, what does that mean? Right? It's not a physical entity. So clearly, if we're describing as having 1 foot, that's meant to convey something to us about an angel, right? And with our 2 feet, right, we lean left, we lean right, we take a step forward, a step back, 2 steps forward, right? We're all over the place. We're all over the place. Up, down, we're all over the place. A malach, the meaning of malach, which we translate as angel, or actually means a messenger, an agent. A malach just does the will of God. So therefore, it has a one foot. It's not going leaning this way, then leaning that way, leaning forward. No, it's just there. It's just doing the will of Hashem. So we stand with our feet together like the way the angels are described to be standing, to illustrate this as we did with our bowing, that we are taking our free will and directing that towards God, towards the Ratzon Hashem. Now, before we go through more of the details of it, let's just look in more broad strokes at the structure of the Amidah. We have the first three blessings. Page 98, right? That's the patriarchs, right? That's the first one. That's actually Avraham. Then, towards the bottom of 98, 99, we have the Gevurot, God's might. That's the second blessing. And then, and that takes us through 100, 101. On page 102, we have the Kedushat Hashem, the holiness of God's name. Those first three brachot are called the Shevach, the praises. And the basic structure is we have three brachot of praises that are always there in every Shmona Esrei we say, whether it is weekday, whether it is Shabbos, whether it is Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, any other holiday. The first three are always there. We might add a line here or there, but those first three are always there. And then if we'll jump towards the end of the Shmona Esrei, we have our last three, starting on page 110, 111. The last three are grouped and called the Hoda'ah, the thanks. And that starts with the Avodah on page 110, the temple service. On page 112, 113, we have the Hoda'ah, the Modim, which is thanksgiving. And then on page 116, 117, we have the last of the brachot, which is Shalom, which is peace. Those last three are always there. So we have the first three, which is the Shavach, the praise to God. And again, that's not that God needs to be flattered. It's that we need to be perfectly aware, cognizant of whom it is that we are standing before. And then we have the last three, which is giving thanks. Generally, we call them Hoda'ah. It's speaking about the return of the temple service, the actual Thanksgiving blessing, and Shalom, Sim Shalom, Shalom Rav, which is the blessing for peace. And then we have the middle category. On a weekday, the middle category is the Bakashot. Bakashot meaning requests. And we have 13 different requests that we make. On a Shabbat or a Yom Tov, then typically instead of these 13 request brachot in the middle, we have one bracha in the middle that speaks about Kedushat Hayom, that speaks about the sanctity of that day. Either it will speak about Shabbat on Shabbos, it will speak about a Yom Tov on a holiday, it will speak about Rosh Hashanah on Rosh Hashanah, it will speak about Yom Kippur on Yom Kippur. That is the one middle bracha. But I want to focus on the weekday Amidah, which has these 13 requests. Now, what seems very strange at first glance is that we had the service in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple. We no longer have a standing Beit HaMikdash, therefore we no longer have the avoda of the Beit HaMikdash. one of the blessing of the temple service on page 110, 111 is asking God to restore the service on page 111, right? V'hashevet ha'avodah lidvir beitecha. Restore the service to the Dvir Beitecha, to the Holy of Holies of your temple. How do we know Dvir of your house refers to the Holy of Holies? Dvir, what's the root of the word Dvir? Dalid Bet Resh, which means to speak. Daber. Right? Where was the speaking of God to Moshe when it was in the Mishkan? Where did that come from? That came from the Holy of Holies. So we're asking God to restore the temple service, but we don't have the Avodat Beit HaMikdash. We don't have the temple service. And we've learned, right, famously we learned in the Mishnah and Pirkei Avot that there are three pillars upon which the world stands. Torah, Avodah, service, and Gemilut Chasadim, and acts of kindness. So, we don't have the avoda. What takes the place of the avoda nowadays? Tefilah. Uneshalma parim sifatei nu sifateichem. Right. Our lips will be in place of those bulls, the bullocks, in place of the sacrifices. So our tefillah is meant to be our service to God. But with all of these bakashot, with all of these requests in the middle, it seems very strange. It seems that we're asking God to serve us. Give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that. Right? That hardly seems to be a way of serving God when we're asking, giving a whole wish list of things. So first of all, we'll soon see most of these things we're asking for are not physical things. But even besides that, by asking Hashem for it, what are we demonstrating?
We need Him.
We need Him. It all comes from you. And that is avodah. That is service. Acknowledging that I'm nothing. I've got nothing. My heart will not beat its next beat if not for you. And anything that I need and everything that I need is coming from you. That is a tremendous degree of avodah, of service. Now the last category again, so it's praise, requests, thanks. Now the thanks, it would seem that I'm praising God, I'm making requests, I'm thanking God for fulfilling my requests. But who's to say that in the time period from when I said, I made those requests, to the point that I got to the thanks, who says that anything has changed? Who says that my requests have been fulfilled? But at the same time, the idea is I'm thanking Hashem for granting us this opportunity, this ability to connect to Him, to have this closeness, this intimacy. The Shmona Esrei, the Amidah, is this intimacy. Everyone is there in their own little world. And everyone is going at their pace. And we'll soon see, everyone is meant to be personalizing the Tefilah, the prayer, in a way that it is a true voicing of the things that are important to them, the things that they are asking. Now, where did the Shmona Esrei come from? Where did this prayer come from? So the Gemara tells us that this was written by the Anshe Knesset Hagadola, the men of the great assembly. Mordechai of Purim fame was a member of the Anshe Knesset HaGedola. The last Nevi'im, Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi, were members of the Anshe Knesset HaGedola. Some say there were up to 80 Nevi'im, prophets, who comprised this 120 Anshe Knesset HaGedola, the men of the great assembly. They were living at the time when prophecy was coming to an end. Until that point, we always had a mitzvah to pray, and everyone was able to compose their own meaningful tefillah. They, with the knowledge, the Torah knowledge, and the prophecy that this group had, they composed this tefillah as a tefillah that speaks for each generation all the way until the time of the Beit HaMikdash. And that is why we don't tinker with the wording of this Shmona Esrei. Right? It's like me going into NASA and saying, okay, I know the Voyager's there around Mars right now, but I'm going to tinker a little bit with the code. I think I can make it a little bit better. Right? And they'll say, oh, Ciner, unless you wrote this code, right, don't touch it. This code is keeping this in orbit, and we'll be able to bring back the information, right? It's allowing it to accomplish what it needs to accomplish. Don't you mess with it. And that's why it's very important to say the Shemona Esrei in Hebrew. It's also very important to know what one is saying, right? And that's a balance. That's a balance that one needs to work at and continue to strive towards being able to say it in Hebrew and knowing what one is saying. So let's go through, briefly, let's go through this Shemona Esrei, this Avodah. And we start off, blessed are you Hashem, our God, the God of our fathers, the God of Avram, the God of Isaac, the God of Yaakov, Jacob. And we say the God by each, we don't say the God of Avram, Isaac, and Yaakov, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Say the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Yaakov, because each one had a different relationship. And it wasn't that, oh, my father did this, or my grandfather did this, and therefore each one forged their own relationship. And as we said, the Shemona Esrei is meant to be a very intimate time of our building our relationship. Hakel, the God, Hagadol, who is great, referring to God's kindness. Hagibor, that refers to God's power. Vahanora, and God's awesomeness. Now, the greatness is his kindness. The Gibor is his strength. And the Nora, the awesomeness, is that this nation of Israel, this sheep amongst the wolves, is still here to study this, to stand before him, to serve him. Kel Elyon, the God who is up above, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, who grants good, beneficial kindnesses. Now, is that necessary? Isn't the kindness automatically beneficial? Well, often. But very often, something that we think is a kindness, we think it's great, that we celebrate, ends up being something to our detriment. And something that we bemoaned ends up being something that is a great gift, right? The suicide rate amongst lottery winners is significantly higher than it is amongst the general populace. Go figure. Okay? You have to be careful what you pray for. You might actually get it. Right? So we ask Hashem for the chasadim tovim. We view how God is giving the beneficial kindnesses, which included in that is, if there is a kindness that I'm hoping God will give me and God doesn't give it to me, I recognize that maybe that will not be a beneficial kindness. The koinei hakol, right? He created everything. The zocher chazdei avot. And he remembers the kindness the kindnesses of the patriarchs. Incredible. When we are speaking about the tremendous merit, when we are recalling and calling upon, heralding, summoning the merit of the Avot, which aspect of merit are we speaking about? Their kindness. Umevi goel, and he will bring the redemption to us. This is how we're standing before him. We are livnei v'neihem. We are their children's children. We are the descendants of these avot, and he will bring the redemption to us, their children's children. L'man shemo, for the sake of his name, as we learned this morning by the Chet HaEgel. That's what Moshe said, Lama. Right? It will cause a desecration of your name. Well, the continued exile is causing a desecration of God's name. So we're asking him to bring the redemption for the sake of his name, and to do it bi'ahava, to do it with love, to do it lovingly. Not saying, oh, you guys have destroyed my name with your actions. Right? I'm going to schlep you out of there. But in an angry way, to do it bi'ahava, with love. Melech Ozer, the king who helps. Umoshia saves, umagain, and protects. And the Vilna Gaon says beautifully, sometimes we have our own merit, then God Ozer helps. Sometimes we don't have our own merit, God is Moshia, he redeems, he saves. Sometimes we are in such a situation that forget about having our own merit. Right? If anything comes our way, we won't even be savable. Therefore, Hashem is Magain. He is the shield. Blessed are you, Hashem, Magain Avraham, the shield of Avraham. And the Chidushei Harim, one of the great Gerer Rebbes, says a beautiful explanation here. The shield of Abraham, meaning what? Avram was the person who was able to find Hashem, even though he was in a world that was steeped in idolatry. And there is that spark of Avraham in every single one of us, that no matter where we are, what we might have gotten involved with, what we are doing, what we're not doing, there is the spark of Avraham in every single Jew. And God is the Magain Avraham. He is the shield. He protects that Avraham that is in us, that enables that spark at any moment to be fanned into a raging fire of passion and connection. The second blessing, Ata Gibor Li'olam Hashem. Hashem, your strength is eternal. And the Gemara tells us there was a time that we didn't want to say Gibor in the Shemona Esrei, that Hashem is powerful. The nations that destroyed the Beit HaMikdash, we've been sent into exile. Where is your Gevurah? Where is your strength? And the Anshe Knesset HaGedola, they are the ones who restored this Gevurah, this description of God as Gibor, even when we're in exile, understanding that that is the greatest display of strength. Keeping to the program, keeping to the mission, keeping to the master plan, even when there is these setbacks, where there is this destruction, where there is this persecution, where there is this exile. Ata Gibor Li'olam Hashem, your Gevura, you are eternally mighty, Hashem. Mechaye Meitim Ata Rav Lahoshia. We recognize that death is not final. Right? One of the early Lubavitcher Rebbes, who was teaching in Russia when they were not allowed to be teaching in Russia. So they put a gun to his head, and he was perfectly calm. And they said to him, "Why aren't you afraid?" And he said, "You who have many gods and one life are afraid of death. We who have one God and two lives, our physical life and our spiritual life, are not afraid of death." Ata Gibor L'Hashem Mechaye Meitim Ata Rav Lahoshia right? You will be the resuscitator of the dead. That's after the Messianic times. Rav Loshia, you are abundantly able to save. Mechalka Chayim B'Chesed, and then we list the different gevurot, the strengths of God. Mechayim Eitim, Somech Nova supports those who have fallen, heals those who are sick, releases those who are bound. Umekayim Unato, L'Shinefar, Michamocha, who is like you with your strength, who is compared to you. Melech Meimit Umechayeh, a king who brings to death and then brings back to life. Umatzmiach Yeshua, and causes salvation to sprout. And salvation, we always use the term sprouting when it comes to salvation. Why sprouting? Because when something sprouts, what happens? The seed goes into the ground and it decomposes and it seems to be all lost. And it is from that decomposition that the growth then comes. Trusted are you, right, to do this Tchiyat HaMeitim. Blessed are you, Hashem, Mechayeh HaMeitim. That's the second blessing. That's the second of the three beginning ones, which is the Shevach. The third one, Ata Kadosh, you are holy, and your name is holy. Ukadoshim b'chol yom yalu chasela, and the holy ones, the angels praise you every day. We join that. Blessed are you, Hashem, Hakel HaKadosh. We then start the next category, which is the 13 request brachot. The first one is for wisdom. Because if we don't have wisdom, you don't have anything. The Gemara says, the dabe kolabe, the dalobe mabe. If you've got that, you got everything. If you don't have that, what have you got? Now, out of all the request brachot, this is the only one that starts with the word ata. You do this. Right? Why? Because wisdom, that very often we say, oh, that was a good idea that I had. Oh, I had such a brilliant insight. When it comes to our mind, that we think, oh, that was me, that was my great idea, that was my innovation. And therefore the first thing we say is, Ata chonein la'adam dat. You are the one who grants wisdom, not a person. Umalamed, and teaches us insight. Chaneinu meitecha, grant to us from you this wisdom, the insight, the discernment. Bless you, Hashem chonein hadat. The second bracha, which is actually the fifth bracha of Shemona Esrei, is the bracha of Teshuvah. Bring us back, Hashem, to your Torah. Bring us close, our King, to your service. The sixth bracha is Slicha, is forgiveness. Right? And there we tap our hearts. As we do when we're saying the vidui, the confession, on Yom Kippur, right? During those days, that's the vidui that we say. The seventh blessing is geula, is redemption. And that ends off, blessed are you Hashem, Goel Yisroel. Now, the blessing before the Amidah was Gaal Yisroel, past tense. He redeemed Israel. That was referring back to the exodus from Egypt. Here we say God is Goel Yisroel. Present tense, He's redeeming Israel. Which means that everything that's taking place now is a step towards the redemption, towards that geula. We don't see it as such, we don't recognize it as such, but Hashem, as we are speaking with everything that we go through, He is presently Goel Yisrael, in the midst of this process of redeeming Israel. The Gemara says the eighth blessing is Rifa'enu, is the blessing for healing. What would the connection be between the eighth and healing? Think of one of my trips to New York.
8 days.
8 days, right? Circumcision is something which there needs to be healing. And we recognize, Hashem, you are the one that heals. Now in the Siddur on page 104 and 105 in English, you see before the words Kikel Melech, we have 2 circles in the Hebrew, and in the English before the word for you are God, there's a single circle over there. That is the place where one would insert the names of people for whom they are praying for a refuah, for a healing. Every bracha can be personalized. This one is very often personalized. And the way that we personalize the bracha is we don't want to interrupt the last clause and the bracha. So we always go back to before the last clause, before the bracha. See here the last clause is Baruch Ata Hashem. In English, for you are God, our God, King, faithful and compassionate healer, blessed you Hashem. We don't want to interrupt that last clause, so we'll insert before that last clause. The ninth bracha is Birchat Hashanim. So this is really the first time that we're asking for something really materialistic for ourselves. And we're asking for a year of prosperity. And this bracha will change winter or non-winter if we're asking for rain as a blessing, or if we're just asking for blessing. This is one of those that changes for the winter or non-winter months. The next blessing is the kibbutz galiyut, the ingathering of the exiles. Blow that great shofar for our freedom and lift the banner to gather us all together. From the four corners of the earth, blessed are you Hashem, you gather the dispersed, the scattered of your nation Israel. With the ingathering of the exiles, the next blessing is the din, is the restoration of justice. Bring back, restore the judges from the earlier times. You Hashem love righteousness and judgment. This next bracha was a bracha that was added in at a later point when we had those Jews and non-Jews who were causing us such harm with false slander to the government. This bracha was added in. That's why we actually have 3 in the beginning, 3 at the end, 13 in the middle, giving us 19 as opposed to the Shmona Esrei, the 18. And this is for the slanderers that there be no hope. May all the wickedness perish in an instant. May your enemies be cut down speedily, etc., etc. Blessed are you, Hashem, who breaks the enemies and humbles the wanton sinners. Right? And certainly there are those today that we can think of who are doing their best to cause tremendous harm to us and to Israel. Ala tzadikim, the righteous, ala chasidim, and on the gerei tzedek, on the righteous converts. May your compassion be good. Blessed are you, Hashem. You are mish'an umivtach, the mainstay and the assurance of the righteous. Page 108, 109, the rebuilding of Yerushalayim. To Yerushalayim, your city, return with compassion and dwell in there as you have spoken, and build it speedily in our days, an eternal building and the throne of David. Speedily establish it in there. Blessed are you, Hashem, Bonei Yerushalayim. So, we haven't used the word Mehera all that often. We used it once in the blessing of Geula, the blessing of redemption, redeem us quickly. And over here by Yerushalayim, here we use it a few times. Right? Uvnei Osa, build it, Bikarov, speedily, soon, be amen in our days. And the Chisei David Mehera, quickly established there. Once Yerushalayim has been built, then et tzemach David. Again, this is the sprouting, the redemption, always a sprouting. Right? Et tzemach David Avdecha. He says the offspring, but I would say the sprouting of David, right, of that redemption, should speedily sprout, and his power should be lifted up, because for your redemption, your salvation, we wait every day. Blessed are you, Hashem Matzmiach, who will cause the flourishing, the sprouting of this redemption. And then the last of the request brachot is the Shema Kolenu, which is a catch-all. Right? Hear our prayers, Hashem, and have compassion, pity, accept with compassion and with willingness our prayers, because you are a God who listens to these tefillot. Do not send us back empty-handed. There's that circle. If you want to put in requests, here's where you'll put them in, which is before the last line before, on page 110, 111. The last line is, for you hear the prayer of your people is with compassion. Blessed are you, Hashem, Shomeya Tefilah. You hear our Tefilah. That concludes the middle section. The last three has, we mentioned before, the ritzei, the temple service, right? Be favorable towards our Tefilah, our prayer, which is in the place of the service, and restore the service to the Holy of Holies and accept it. And let our eyes see when you return to Zion. Bless you, Hashem, that you will return your presence to Zion. And then page 112, that's the brach of modim, of thanks. And we thank Hashem for the niflotecha, the nisim, the miracles that are with us every day, and the wonders that are with us at all times, evening, morning, afternoon. Our thanks is for that which God is constantly doing for us. That is the appreciation that we express. And then the last bracha is shalom. Page 116, 117, that is the blessing for peace. Because only, as we started off, right, the request were, if you don't have wisdom and knowledge, then all other blessings will not be effective. And all that we have, when there isn't shalom, when there isn't peace, then it's all in disarray. So the last thing that we speak about is sim shalom, establish peace, goodness, blessing, graciousness, kindness, compassion upon us, all the people of Israel. Bless us with the light of your countenance, right? The Torah, the kindness, etc., etc. And then we end off, bless you Hashem, Hamavarechet Amo Yisroel B'Shalom. That ends the official Shemona Esrei. The Gemara tells us that different sages had different supplications that they would add on afterwards, and this is the one of those in the Gemara that became ours, and it's very telling that it begins, God, guard my tongue from evil and my lips from speaking deceitfully, right? Because we have to realize we're using our mouth for Kedusha, for holiness, to stand before God. We could only do that if our mouth is a clean, purified vessel which can serve God. And therefore we need to be so careful not to use our mouth for deceit, for speaking badly about others. Also, we started off, we take the 3 steps back with this Amidah, we're standing up. That's what made us unique. Well, what makes us unique, the Nefesh Chaya is translated as Nefesh Mamalala, our ability to speak. That's what makes us unique and uplifted. We have to make sure there's always Zeh Le'umat Zeh. That which can be used for good can be used for bad. We have to be so careful not to utilize that in a very destructive manner. And we say this to accept all that, right? All those are thinking badly about us, let it not happen, right? Open our hearts for Torah, let us pursue mitzvot. And then at the end of the Amidah, what do? We take our 3 steps back. We are moving back from the Shekhinah, and then we bow to our left. Interesting. Oseh Shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisroel v'imru amen. Why are we bowing to our left? Normally we always go to the right. We always start with the right. Why are we bowing to the left? Because Hashem's presence is in front of us during this Amidah. So we are bowing to Hashem's right. And then, so we are by going to the left, we are in fact bowing to Hashem's right. In a Kabbalistic sense, the right represents chesed, kindness, and the left represents din, judgment. So we always start with the right. Here we're going to the left because we're in fact going to the right of Hashem that is before us. And then as we've stepped back, standing back, there's a short supplication of the building of the Beit HaMikdash, right? This that we just had is what we have now, right? In place of, there's always a mitzvah of davening, but that's all we have now, and we ask for the rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash speedily in our days, and there we will serve you as we did, and may be sweet to you the offerings of Judah and Yerushalayim as it was in those days. Then we take our 3 steps forward, and that is our Amidah.
There are those why on Shabbat There are some people that are waiting for the 3 steps forward only when the Kedusha starts.
Yeah, that's not just on Shabbat.
It's not on Shabbat?
It's not just on Shabbat, right? If one is davening with a minyan, then the proper thing, you don't want to take 3 steps back and 3 steps forward, right? You want to take 3 steps back and then wait a while till you move forward again, right? To recognize that you've just receded, you just moved back from the presence of Hashem. So it shouldn't be a flippant, right? So therefore we should stay back. And ideally, if you're davening with the minyan is going to be Kedusha, we stay back until Kedusha, until the repetition starts, and Kedusha, and then we step forward and we say the Kedusha. Okay, my friends, we will call it over here. Yasher koach, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dove.
What if you're davening